right. Welcome, Warner, to our next episode of the Warner Enterprises Veteran Podcast. It's been a while since we've done one. I think our last one was July of 24, where we were prepping for the 50-mile march. That was a great episode. Quick update, and then I'll introduce our guest that's in the studio with us today. We've got a couple of fun events coming up. This year, we are walking in Omaha's Patriotic Parade for the 5th time. It's the 5th annual parade. We've participated every year that it's been downtown Omaha. Our goal is to have as many people show up from Warner in a red T-shirt supporting everyone that's deployed for that Patriotic Parade. It's over Memorial Day weekend. Stay tuned for more details on that. We're also going to host our annual Independence Day cookout. That's always a fun time where we meet at the Driver Pavilion here in Omaha for those of you that are here. And we'll have burgers and dogs and just enjoy the camaraderie. So this year we also have a larger team than we did last year. The first year we did it was 20 for a 50-mile march was 23. We had 3 people walk with us on Team Warner. 2024 we had 7 people walk with us on Team Warner. And this year it looks like we're going to have upwards of 12, maybe more, walk with us for this year's 50-mile march. So stay tuned for additional details on that. So with all that said, Kendra is in the studio with us today. Kendra is an Air Force veteran, prior small business owner / interior designer, a paralegal, a bailiff with Douglas County, and then now a veteran service officer with Sarpy County.
Yes.
That's quite the range of skills.
Yeah, it is.
So let's start at the beginning. Talk to us about your time in the Air Force.
So I joined, literally I was in the delayed entry program and the 9/11 happened. And believe it or not, my mom's like, do not go. You do not have to go. And I said, no, I'm going. And so I enlisted in 2001 as security force member. And my first station was Mountain Home, Idaho, and I was there for the entire duration of my enlistment of 5 years. Deployed to Kuwait in support of the war, which was a very impactful time in my career, and met my husband while I was in the Air Force. He also was security forces, and he had did 15 years of service time. And I got out in 2007 when our son was born, and my husband stayed in at the time. And my reasoning for getting out was just nobody else was there to raise our son. We deployed every 9 months out of every year. And so it's not, I mean, I miss it. I'm not going to lie to you. I miss it. A lot of my friends are getting to the point where they're retiring, and I'm like, man, I still got a few more years now.
Yeah, I've heard Mountain Home is awesome from a base perspective as far as if you like to be outdoors, if you like to do outside stuff.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all 5 years at Mountain Home. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Mountain Home deployed to Kuwait.
Mm-hmm.
What year?
2004.
2004. Okay.
Yeah.
What were you doing in Kuwait?
We were the Central Security for the KCI International Air Base. And so we were basically the port where everybody would come in country and then go out from there. So we did a lot of flightline security, external security.
And it was, I mean,
like
every jet that we were using in Desert Storm was probably frequenting either into or out of the country through Kuwait, right?
Yep.
So
100%.
busy flight line.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Busy from all coalitions, really.
Yeah.
Because we had Brits come through, and yeah.
The Brits do war differently than we do.
Yeah.
So met your husband.
Yes.
Where did he move after Mountain Home? Did you guys stay in Mountain Home the entire time?
He actually, so he was in for 15 years, and he did his entire stint in Mountain Home, except for he did 2 years in Korea.
It's pretty rare.
Very rare. Yeah, it is. But again, in a sense, it's a non-nuclear base. So if you have, like myself, I lost my security clearance and basic training because I passed out. And so I couldn't become a nuke cop. And so
Oh, bummer.
I know, right? And so I'm like, that's a good thing, but a
Right.
bad thing because it does limit your
It
bases
is.
where you
Yep.
can go. And so in a sense, I think that's kind of why I stuck there. And if you don't ask to get out, you're pretty much going to stay there. A lot of my leadership did a decade or two there, and then now there's civilians there. So it's kind of one of those niches. If you get stuck, you get stuck.
It's not a bad place. I
No.
would love to get stuck somewhere like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so how'd you get from Mountain Home to Omaha? Walk us through that path.
So I am actually a Lincoln native. I was born and raised in Lincoln. My entire family is still in Lincoln. In 2009, my husband, he succumbed to his battle with PTSD, and our son was 2 at the time. So I moved home to be with family and to help raise him. And he is or was, he quit, played very competitive hockey. And we started him at the age of 4. And Omaha has a better hockey program. So that's why he moved to Omaha, was for hockey.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear about your husband.
Thank you.
I can't imagine going through that alone.
Yeah.
So the move home makes total sense.
Yeah.
Not that it makes any of that pain and any of that sorrow go away,
For
but
sure.
I can't imagine not having a support network.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And when they say it takes a tribe, it takes a tribe. And I just have one son, and I know that there are families out there and widows that have, multiple children. And I honestly, I give them a hand because it was hard enough with just one. And he's a great kid. I love him. Like honestly, he wasn't a hard kid to raise, but when you're dealing, I mean, just to be frank, I want to say the first 4 years after his passing's a black hole for me. I really, really don't remember a lot. And so in a sense, I'm glad that my family was there because I know, when I was going through that hard time, they were there for me, and it's not to say my military family wouldn't have been, but again,
It's still different.
yeah,
Family is family,
yeah,
and the military family definitely does and can and step in and do good
yeah,
things, but it's not the same as mom and dad or sister and brother
yep,
stepping in and being able to help out with you, but not also your child.
yep,
So
100%.
that's awesome.
So
What's your son's name?
his name's Denver,
Okay.
and he just turned 18. So, and he played very competitive hockey growing up, and then decided his junior year he was done and didn't want to play anymore, and decided he wanted to join the Marines. So he's been to MEPS, and unfortunately he got denied because he had 2 hip surgeries and a broken elbow playing hockey.
From hockey. Okay.
So he's waiting on a waiver, and
Okay.
we'll see if that comes through or not. But if it doesn't, then he's off to MMI, which is Motorcycle Mechanics Institute, because he's really, really gotten into motorcycles. So that's his
That's
thing.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
at least he has a backup plan.
He does. And and when you go back to things with his dad and stuff, I have found in the last year his coping mechanism, you know, you go and you don't realize how kids grow up, without a parent, and how they cope with it. Each kid copes with something on their own, and he really, really has embraced. He started a nonprofit. We're in the process of getting it legally legit, called Stronger Than Suicide. And his whole mission in that is to actually be there for those who have lost somebody to suicide, as well as be there for those who have those same mental struggles themselves. And his main focus is educating others as to how to treat a kid who's lost a parent to suicide, because he said that he always felt like he was being treated differently. And that's what was hard for him. He never wanted to be treated differently. And so that's kind of his main focus, is just really being there for other kids. Like he went to Omaha Christian Academy his freshman, sophomore year. And there was a young kiddo who had just lost his dad. And Denver, I think it clicked for him, and he was really able to be there for him at that time. And so that has become Denver's mission and how he's coping and becoming a man himself. And he started this, the Stronger Than Suicide, and he's now turned it into a bike group. And so they go on motorcycle missions, and our first actual fundraiser is for the 50-mile march.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
Very
yep,
cool.
yep,
Very cool. It's unfortunate that he ever felt a need
yeah,
to do that, right? That's a terrible thing. But the fact that good came out of it
for sure.
is awesome.
Yep.
Period. Very cool. So that's your connection, right, to the military. It's obviously very strongly rooted
Yeah.
with your story, with your husband's story, and you had parents that served as
Yep.
well,
Yep.
right?
My dad, he was in the Navy. He was a CB.
Okay.
And then his dad was a baker in the Navy, and then my other grandpa was in the National Guard. So we kind of, if Denver ends up going in, we have 4 years of lineation there.
Very, very
So,
cool. Yeah.
yep.
My family has a similar story, several generations long, of joining. Ours is the Air Force, but it's still that multi-generational thing.
Yeah.
It's cool to get to say that, oh yeah, my grandpa and my father and my brothers and sisters also did this. Very small percentage of America gets to say that. So,
Yeah.
very
Well,
cool.
yeah, when you think of 1% of our
Mhm.
country is actually military, it is.
Yep, very small
So,
percentage.
yep.
So, okay. So got out. What were you doing for work? Walk us through that.
So I actually, when I got out, I was able just to be a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
And in a sense, that's really what Denver needed. And then when he started going to elementary school full time, I realized I didn't feel like I served a purpose. I was sitting at home all day. So at that time, I decided to utilize my GI Bill. And I went to do some assessments or whatever. And it came back up law enforcement, and I didn't want to do that anymore as a single mom. So I said, I'd still love the law. And that's when actually coming and doing paralegal studies and being an attorney, which I really, really didn't want to do. I like putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I didn't really ever have a desire to be an attorney. So I went to College of St. Mary's, and they have an ABA approved program for paralegals. And I did, I think this is just probably the militariness. I did the 4-year program in 2 years. I just treated it like my job.
Awesome.
Yeah. I just treated it like my job and got it done. And, realized I really, really liked it. So I went on and I got my master's and worked for a couple law firms as a paralegal, and then got picked up to be a juvenile court Douglas County bailiff. And I did that for about a year. And then
How was that?
I actually loved it.
Really?
Yeah.
I can imagine it has to be one of the toughest jobs in the world.
So, you know, innocent. So in that aspect, I was more of a courtroom manager.
Okay.
But I will tell you, dealing with kids and in the juvenile court system, it was an eye opener because I am very naive to what goes on. And, Denver and I are in our little corner in our hole, and there's so much out there. And I really, really was naive to, the juvenile system, whether it be kids that are, staying with foster parents, other agencies out there that really are the DHHS, that are there to protect those kids, but still there's still a disconnect.
Right.
And in a reality, just trying to fix that system. But I obviously was a very small piece. So it was just a courtroom manager in a sense is what those bailiffs are. And but it was pretty cool. I actually did really love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So from there, you went to Sarpy County for your current role as a VSO, right?
Yes.
What's a VSO?
So a VSO is a veteran service officer, and I am a county veteran service officer, which means that I am not a VA employee. I am actually an employee of Sarpy County. And so when a veteran comes to our office, needing assistance for their benefits or anything like that, those services are free to the veteran. They are actually paid for by the county. And And so sometimes it gets confusing because people think that we're directly linked to the VA, and we're not. We just have our accreditation through the VA.
So you're linked in the sense that if I have a VA file,
Hmm.
if I give you permission, you can pull it,
Yep.
right? But not linked from a compensation perspective or an employment perspective. You work for Sarpy County,
Correct.
serving Sarpy County veterans
Correct.
primarily,
Yep.
right? I live in Douglas
Yeah.
County, right next door to Sarpy County. Do you see Douglas County
We do.
veterans as
We
well?
do. Yeah.
Okay.
We can actually see any veteran. I mean, I've actually am currently helping a veteran that lives in Texas right now. And it's because he originally started in Sarpy County, moved to Texas, and his VSO is too far away. So it's either he communicates with them remotely or he goes to the office that he knows.
Okay.
And so he came to us and we're working his claim and everything remotely. There is some, difficulty with that. Some of it's communication because you can't communicate everything by email effectively rather than an in-office
Mhm.
visit. But we can work with literally anybody that is a veteran. We just ask if you are coming for county specific benefits because each county does have specific benefits that you go to that county because those are, allotted per population. So when we have county aid, it's based off of the population of Sarpy County. So if we give some of that aid to a Douglas County,
Right. That makes sense.
yeah.
What are some of the benefits in Sarpy for in this space? Give us an
Um,
example.
so it would be the county aid.
Okay.
We have, and that aid is there to assist with utilities, rent, car payments. If we have a veteran that is financially strapped,
Okay.
they can come to us and
So emergency funding
Mhm.
type of
Yep.
situations. Okay.
Yep.
I had no idea that was out there from
Yeah.
the county. Okay.
Yep, it is.
So what's your demographic? Are you seeing post 9/11 veterans? Are you seeing pre 9/11 veterans? Are you seeing the full gamut? Who does the VSO
We see
serve most often?
we see everybody. And I will tell you, my specific experience in my office, we have a lot of Vietnam veterans that are coming in, and we have a lot of post 9/11 veterans. We have very few in between. And I think a lot of those in between that are called peacetime veterans, um, a lot of them don't come in for benefits because they don't feel they deserve them because they weren't, part of an actual wartime. But in reality, there are benefits out there for everybody, but they just maybe not as easy to get to because you don't have those presumptive conditions. But those that, have served in the wartime and, in country and stuff like that, we do see quite a bit from. And rightfully so, they do have more conditions.
Speaking of presumptive conditions, the PACT Act
Yes.
changed a lot. And my uneducated definition of the PACT Act is it's our attempt to fix living next to burn pits
Yes.
forever, right? There's
Yes.
a lot of other stuff,
Hmm.
radiation, X-ray techs, all that stuff that is tied in there.
Yes.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? Can you explain the PACT Act and how it benefits with a presumptive?
Yes. I personally, as a veteran myself that benefits from the PACT Act, as well as being a VSO, it has made filing your claims so much easier because and it not only is the post 9/11, but it's also the Vietnam veterans that are benefiting from it from Agent Orange or the Camp Lejeune, the blue water exposure, stuff like that. Because if we can prove that you were in country by your orders and you have this long list of conditions that are now presumed, there's your benefit. If you don't have that presumptive condition and you don't have that, location and time in country, we have to go a different route to prove your connection, which becomes frustrating and daunting to the veterans. And they a lot of times don't end up filing for it. And so that's where I always tell them, you know what? We'll help you. We'll do the work for you. It might be a little bit harder, like getting an nexus letter, that links that diagnosis and your condition with your service, but it doesn't mean you won't get it. But the PACT Act has really, really made it easier. And I just hope, every year like this last year, they've added a few more conditions. And I just hope that they start, continuing adding the conditions that they're seeing because there's a reason for it.
In my thought process, so I got out 2 years ago, and I was quick to get paperwork on file with the VA,
Mhm.
just primarily out of a hey, I don't feel like garbage right now. I don't feel that I need a disability payment.
Mhm.
I don't like that word in that context, but I wanted to get paperwork on file so that later in life, when 30 years has passed,
Yeah.
I don't have to go back and find that paperwork.
Mhm.
Easier for me to find the paperwork now in the digital age than it is for a Vietnam era vet to
Right.
find paperwork.
Yes.
I can't imagine having to find a set of orders from Vietnam today to hope
Yes.
to get some benefit. Most of mine are electronic,
Yes.
and are kept by DoD, but also I have electronic copies of all mine. So I was quick to file due to the fact that I didn't want to be responsible solely for keeping all that paperwork.
Mhm.
So and it's a bureaucratic process to file. You have to follow certain steps. For
Mhm.
the most part, it's if you follow the steps, it's reasonably well laid out.
Right.
Nothing is not well documented, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say that that was very wise on your end to do that because, what we call is are the BDD claims, and those are veterans that are getting out and they actually go and they file their claims within 6 months of getting out of the service. And literally, those claims have every single condition that you have ever had what in your time in service, and they file for them. And then it goes through the process, and probably 75% of them get denied. But you still have that documentation now that
Mhm.
it was in your record. And like you said, 30 years down the road, you can rely back on that. Um, what I always tell people, some people get discouraged when they get conditions and they get a 0% connectivity. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's that they're acknowledging it. They're acknowledging it. You got in service, but your conditions right now aren't severe enough to warrant a rating. But when those increase, all we have to do is go ask for increase. And there's no need to sit there and prove the connection because they already accepted it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Arthritis is a great example of that. Something that gets worse with time.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a the benefit, the DoD or the VA benefit is a fascinating world.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there that do what the VSO does,
Hmm.
but they charge a ton of money
They do.
for it. And if that's the right path, right? Every case is different.
Right.
But there's a lot of options like the VSO that come at no cost to the
Yes.
veteran that are worth exploring and worth knowing about.
Yes. Yes. 100%. And that's, we do have veterans come in. Last week, I had 3 veterans come in who, hired outside counsel to do their claim. And unfortunately, they really messed their claim up. And then they were coming back to us to fix it. And sometimes they feel like that's their only recourse. I have to get a lawyer. Well, you really, really don't. We can help you. We can help you all the way up to the federal, Veterans Appeals Court. And then at that time, okay, you might want to get an attorney. But then once it gets to there and it gets remanded, come back to your VSO and we'll help you again. So there's I think at different parts of your claims, an attorney is a great move for you. But some people jump on that bandwagon right away because they feel the VA system so daunting. And I don't think that they realize what a VSO is or does for them too. So,
So VSOs can be helpful, like we've talked about with disability through the rated the VA rating system.
yep.
What about health insurance? There's a lot of veterans that are out there that have access to health insurance or health benefits through the VA, but have simply not filed.
Right.
Can the VSO help with that stuff?
Yeah. So in a sense, we have limited access to be able to help. So let's say, I actually had a veteran in this week that he has private insurance. And I said, well, have you ever been seen by the VA? And he goes, nope. And I said, well, would you like to be in the VA healthcare system? I said, because if, you know, you want to drop this private insurance off, so you're saving that monthly. I said, we can, register you in the VA health system here. And then you just go through that process. And depending on the percentage of your connected disability, depends on how much your healthcare is, because it is off of income base. It's off of your ability to pay. So if if you're somebody that makes 60,000 a year and you don't have any connected disability, you're going to have a copay, but it's going to be far cheaper than a private insurance. But if you are somebody that, has 50% disability, it's 100% free. Your prescriptions are free, all your visits are free. If they can't see you, which by the way, I do believe RV hospital was rated, well, for a while was number 1 in the country, but I think it's right around the top 5 in the country. And, so if they can't see you within 30 days, you get care in the community. And, to me, that's just a service you can't, if it's there for you to utilize it.
It might not be as convenient as private health insurance.
Yeah.
And or I don't want to use the word easy, but it's probably the best way. It might not be as easy, but if you're in the system,
Mm-hmm.
it's a benefit regardless of rating.
Yep.
There's some dependencies there, but I use both. I have private health insurance through Warner Enterprises, but
Yeah.
also I have an annual exam, my annual physical on Friday this week. I go in for labs tomorrow, and I
Yeah.
go in for my physical. I don't have a need to pay for that through my private health insurance because it costs more money.
Yep. Yep.
I can. There's always the fear of the VA not being top quality. We do have one of the best
Yeah.
here in Omaha, but an annual physical can be done by an MD, any MD. It's not like they're doing brain surgery.
Right.
So
Right. And Sarpy County has a brand new med clinic,
that's where my
which
physical
is
is. Yep.
phenomenal. I
So
love it. I'm telling you, I have TRICARE from my husband, because basically I have his retirement benefits. And I still opt to use the VA care. I absolutely love my provider in Sarpy County. And even outside emergency care, I was in a pretty serious motorcycle accident back in September, and I was actually life flighted, and the 2 emergency room visits that I had and my helicopter, my life flight, were all covered by the VA. That was almost $100,000 that the VA covered.
I didn't realize that was shoot. We just finished walking 50 miles.
Yeah, we did.
What happened? Can I ask?
So sure. So Denver and I were on a poker run, and we were some small town in Iowa. And to be frank with you, I really don't remember what happened. I
Okay.
passed out.
Yeah.
But we were coming around a curve, and that's all I remember. Nobody else was there. Denver was a little bit too far ahead to see me, and he noticed he was a little ways away and noticed on Life 360 I wasn't moving, but could see my little thingy or whatever in a field. And so he rode back. He said it was probably about 10 miles back that he rode back. And and I don't remember this, so I'm going off of what he tells me. But I was sitting in some farmer's field with their dog. Their dog found me.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So passed out though. Their dog found you passed out, and then you got life flighted.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Motorcycle crashes are not something people survive from.
No. And
Not commonly, right?
no, and I feel like because I did go off to this in the field or whatever,
Right.
yeah.
You're a lucky son of a
Yeah,
gun.
very much so. So I haven't ridden by myself since, so
Okay.
we'll see.
Okay. What kind of bike?
It was my son's. I actually got it for him for his senior graduation gift. It was a Sportster.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you got him a bike and then you wrecked it.
I did.
There's a lot of good family jokes there down later in life.
Oh, trust me, he does not let me forget on a daily. So, but that actually sparked his love for building the bikes because he rebuilt it.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, he did.
Okay.
He rebuilt
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
What about education benefits, GI Bill? You mentioned using the
Yes.
GI Bill.
Yes.
I'm assuming you can open the door to the right people to talk to about GI Bill benefits and all that stuff if
Yes.
veterans still have those benefits.
Yes, and 100%. And as a VSO, we're not the expert in that area, but we do definitely have the context to be able to send them to where they need to go, as well as, we have Nebraska residents. If you have 100% connectivity, Nebraska waives your tuition for state schools, as well as like the community college and stuff. And so, we, can help them figure out what they need to do for that, their dependents, because if you have it a percent, your dependents also receive that tuition waiver. And so we can definitely help point them in the right direction. When it comes to actually, say, applying for those, I tend to direct them to the actual school because they have the military liaisons there on campus. So, and they are far better suited with the knowledge than I am.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Um, so getting involved in the community, let's talk a little bit. I know you're involved in a group called is it the Omaha Alliance for Veterans, Omaha
Yeah.
Veterans Alliance.
Yeah.
I mess up the title. Give me your 2 cents on that organization real quick.
I am telling you, I am mind blown by this organization. I absolutely love it. I have been able to help 2 veterans so far, and it's, again, its purpose is to, I guess, widen our arms and our ability to reach different benefits for veterans within our community. And there are services that are out there that necessarily Sarpy County can't do. But if I have that reach, I can help them in other ways. And my first experience with the organization, I had a veteran come in and he was trying to refinance his house. And he got the VA loan, but then realized his foundation was bad. And the VA said, sorry, we're not going to be able to prove it because your foundation, you need to repair it first. And he's like, well, I can't repair it without getting my loan. And I reached out to this group. I kid you not, in 5 minutes, I had 20 replies, and we have Habitat for Humanity offered to step in and take care of his foundation. That was a $30,000 bid that they offered to take
Over the course of 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I had another loan officer from, I believe it's called Fairway Mortgage, that's in the group. And he offered to step in and take over the loan process and even lower his interest rate.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah. In 5 minutes, in just one email.
So this group, the way I understand it, was founded was just veteran organizations in Omaha. It's specific to Nebraska, but it's, hey, what are we all doing? And the invite went out. The thought process was that 10 people would meet in a dark room and talk about veteran benefits in Omaha.
Yeah.
And that initial thought of we'll have 5 to 10 organizations show up turned into now 100 organizations, all of them serving Nebraska and Iowa, for the most part, veterans. And it's everything from county employees like yourself, the VSO, to state and federal employees, but then every nonprofits that focus on Native American veteran burials, to horse equine therapy, to service dogs, and everything in between. The Omaha community is an awesome place to be if you're a veteran.
100%. Yeah. And it also has, veteran owned businesses that help give back and help other veterans, And so like moving veterans forward, and helping veterans, in 50 Mile March and all of that, dealing with homeless veterans. I will tell you, until I became a VSO, I did not realize our issue with homeless veterans that we have. Because again, I'm in this little corner and I'm so naive to what's really going on. And being in my position, I probably have 1 to 2 in my office a week that are homeless or couch surfing.
It's an underreported number, by definition, for a couple of reasons. One, most veterans that are couch surfing don't count towards that homeless veteran population, but by definition, they don't have a place that they call their own, but they just have a really good friend that lets them stay on the couch for 6 months, right? But I mean, we can argue about semantics in an English dictionary definition, but that's, if you don't have a home that's your own because you can't afford it for whatever reason, whether that come from substance abuse, mental health challenges, etc. But then also the other interesting, frustrating thing, the count is always underreported because they do it in January. So they count our nation's homeless in January. January, Omaha saw -20 actual degree temperatures.
Yes.
I'm sorry, if you're good at counting, you're not going to find the veteran that's not in -20 degree weather. So the Nebraska number, the Iowa number is always more than what the actual count is, because we, as a nation, we do it in January. And the count is one thing. You still have to address the problem. And that's, again, why the groups like the Alliance were formed, is to start addressing those issues. But the problem is real,
Mm-hmm.
very real.
It definitely is. Yep.
All right, we're coming up on the end. What else do you want to make sure you get across as a VSO, as a mom, as a veteran?
You know, I mean, honestly, I guess, my whole thing is if you stop and you look at our veterans as a whole, most of them aren't receiving the benefits they are entitled to. And a lot of them sit there and say, somebody else is worse off than I am. And I want to sit there and say that's not true. That no matter what you're dealing with, your conditions are valid and there is a benefit there for you. And I always stop and I look at it as you signed that dotted line up until death. And that was a contract that you made with our country. And they made a promise to you in return. And now it's their turn to pay up on that promise. And so I want to sit there and say that no matter how little you think your condition is, that at that moment in time, that's the only condition that I personally am concerned about and dealing with. And so I just really encourage everybody to find their veteran service officer in what county, what state, whatever you're in, um, just to see, because it's, and also, I know sidetrack, those benefits aren't only for you, they're for your family. And, I have a lot of families come into my office that are looking for those death benefits. But unfortunately, the veteran before them didn't file for any. And so then they're not qualified for any. And so I tell people, you're doing this for your family because there are benefits after you leave for them. So there's always a little bit extra there. But I get it's a daunting process, but we're there to help you through it.
Heck yeah. Thank you for coming out today.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was a pleasure. It was an honor, actually. I love it.
It's awesome. Yeah. Thanks for making the time.
Yeah.